for us to talk during conferences. So I figured I would talk about the main power standards and learning targets that we're doing in Language Arts 10A. During the pandemic, I thought it was important for us to do less, but to do that less more and better and more consistently. So there are 4 power standards that I am asking my students to practice and then reveal their knowledge of throughout the entire term. Now, those 4 standards are vocabulary, using text evidence in their writing, that's quoting, some writing goals as we do the research paper, and there's a lot of them. I'll talk about that in a minute. Some key grammar, and then there's a 5th one that I didn't write out, and it's just going over reading strategies, stuff that we do all the time since 6th grade. Okay, so let me talk about each one of those power standards and things to look for in your students' growth that you'll see through MyStar scores. 1, vocab. All classes are learning Latin roots. There'll be about 50 Latin roots that they should know by the end of this term. And we're not doing tests to assess their memory of these roots during the pandemic. Instead, we're asking them to do project-based learning. They might be creating a slideshow. They might be doing something else like a comic utilizing their words. And we're also hopefully using these new words that use the roots in our essays and in our speaking. So an example of this is my use of the word sanguinely. This word means being hopeful, optimistic. So the students, a goal that they should be learning to do is improving their context clues. Can they figure out what this word means, this purple word, by reading that sentence and noticing the clues of hoping he will come back to her? That word hope is a context clue. Can they note, since they know Abigail Williams has this relationship with John Proctor, excuse my typo in there. That's a goal that we want our sophomores, our LA10 students, to learn how to do really well. It's also an SAT skill. By the end of our term, they will have learned 50 roots, and then they will have also looked up about 50 new words, one for each root that they're doing in their slideshows. The second power standard is a big one, using text evidence in writing. It's also identifying what I call golden lines in our reading, improving our reading and writing of what are important quotes that we can make commentary about from our readings in class or articles. So if we look through the 5 targets, I can identify golden lines, that just means quotes, good quotes to discuss from our readings. I can identify researchable ideas from my research paper. I can summarize the meaning of these quotes in my own words. And here's the big one. Students need a lot of practice at this throughout all of high school. I can analyze by adding analysis and commentary about the quotes beyond plot summary. So we're trying to model and give students opportunities to practice adding their own analysis, not just summarizing, but having their own ideas or synthesizing and seeing comparisons. Finally, and I am an advocate for this, that I think all writers can learn how to use lead-ins in their quotes. And I call this adding green to your writing. Adding the yellow is just doing proper MLA formatting so our writing looks clean and is formatted correctly. The green is really hard for students to learn. There's 3 different ways to do lead-ins, and the first way I'm showing you an example is called using the tag or phrase. He says, she says. Notice now the quote has some of the writer's writing around it. This is something the students should be able to teach you as stakeholders. They have reviewed it 3 or 4 times, and they should be at proficiency now. It's okay if they're still at developing, though. This takes practice. So let me read you my example. They have done this 3 or 4 times already through our Crucible unit. When arguing with his wife, Elizabeth, John Proctor says, that's called a lead into the quote. We don't want our writing to have quotes that feel like speed bumps and the reader not knowing why the quotes are in there. Now, on the left side, on the right side, that's the student's analysis. This would be quite masterful, but definitely within a LA10 student's writing capabilities. But a student doesn't need to write with this type of word choice to score a 10 out of 10. But notice that in this example, the student is doing more than summarizing the plot. They're referring to the quote, they're explaining their own ideas, they're making analysis, they're making commentary. Our next unit is the research paper. This is going to take up the rest of the term. And there are about, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 individual tasks that students are learning to do and practice through the research paper. So each one of these bullets are going to be an assessment I do not assign an essay, and then 4 weeks later, students have missing essays and feel really behind. You will see us chart together our progress, and in my star, you will be able to check in and see how they're doing because I will be updating with the feedback formatively and summatively on each of these tasks. So we'll start with just finding a topic. The research paper is about nutrition. This will be the second year we're doing this type of research paper, and the students really enjoyed this topic, discussing it. We'll be reading some excerpts from the textbook as well, and they go over different ideas about nutrition, impact on our health, not having bias about other cultures' food, and what is some of our foods that we eat, what are the chemicals in our food, and then finally we read an excerpt from a classic novel called The Jungle, a classic work of literature that was about the meatpacking industry in Chicago. And we only read about 2 pages of it, but it really sets up how important food is and how it's made and may have historically impacted people's health. So I really enjoy teaching this research paper. And there will be a very large packet with lots of examples. And then within the first week, they'll be picking their topics. They'll have choice within nutrition. I'll help them get their topics. They'll be searching on Google and other databases how to find quality sources and what makes a source highly qualified. We'll learn how to write intros and not using a question in the beginning. Have you ever drank a lot of pop? Well, I have, and now I'm going to tell you why pop is bad. That is not high school level writing, and we're going to practice other intro strategies. By the end of this, they're going to cite 5 quality sources. They're going to learn how to take notes on those sources, paraphrasing and quoting those sources correctly. That's going to take practice. And honestly, that takes practice all the way up to senior year. So they don't need to be perfect in their research papers to score a 10 out of 10 in LA 10. They should enjoy this unit. Writing is often hard, but when we feel that sense of accomplishment and we have this tangible finished essay that we could give to a friend or give to a colleague in class or our teacher or our parent or guardian, and that we can have this real discussion about our health, I find that really just enjoyable as a teacher to watch that happen. So ask them about that. There will be a calendar on the research paper shared on Monday or Tuesday next week. Finally, here's the key grammar topics I feel like I can do well with your students during our unit. Now, we have less time in the semester because of not only virtual learning, but we had that late start and there's some other interruptions. So I'm really focusing on these 6 things. Punctuating quotes correctly. They are doing that now. They're at developing or higher. Conjunctions and comma rules are really important, using commas with and but. I'm going to teach them that, and they've heard about this a lot, but I didn't really learn it till I was in my 20s when I was a teacher. Comma rules with phrases. I will be teaching the difference of a phrase and a clause and how to use phrases at the beginning of our sentences. If we had a full term together, I would be getting to the middle and end of sentences, but I imagine we might only get to the beginning. Omitting stop words. Those are just a list of words like, sort of, I think, I believe, and just having an editing session where we learn to omit weak diction from our writing and maybe using our vocab words. Doing capitalization correctly. I am finding that this new generation, because of text messaging, are just not capitalizing things when they know how to do it. So I often give them an editing session in class, and we really should be encouraging our students to take advantage of that time. Finally, using clear topic sentences. So that's our learning targets for the year, other than the reading strategies that I'm reviewing. We're adding purple, we're adding green, and we're adding yellow. We're learning how to be good researchers. And finally, we're improving our grammar and mechanics a little bit with standard English conventions.